Dr. Kevin Lehman's coming up on the Triple D later today. We'll do our Thanksgiving dinner survival guide together. Joe, who's this lady on the phone?
Well, this lady on the phone is a really good friend of mine and her husband, Dennis. Wendi Burkhardt. Wendi, welcome to the Wake Up Tucson show.
Well, good morning, guys.
Good morning. So, Wendi, when I went out to Colorado, I got to spend some time with Wendi and Dennis. And Wendi is a startup entrepreneur, and she has a business that I thought the listeners would really enjoy, given our demographic.
So you were just in Colorado, and you met him at a Dunkin' Donuts? I mean,
yeah, right.
Wow.
I'm just couch surfing now. It's kind of like Airbnb, but like cheaper.
Don't they have one of those Airbnbs where it's like just sleeponthecouch.com or something like that?
Hey, Wendi, we're sorry on this whole segment if we make a mistake before we even get into it. So
it's okay.
So now Wendi has a business that she started up, and she's it's called Silvernest. And Wendi, explain this business because it's really something our listeners would find interesting. So what is Silvernest?
So Silvernest is an online roommate matching platform that's designed to help baby boomers and empty nesters that have extra space in their house find roommates, monetize that space, and actually be able to stay in their homes longer than they might otherwise have been able to.
So it's again, you got a mom or dad that's living on their own or needs extra care. There's probably another mom or dad in their silver years and needing that extra care. If you can match the two together, the thought is they can stay independent longer, have camaraderie, and all the different things that go on in having a good roommate, right?
Absolutely, yeah, that's absolutely right. And we actually think that there's probably a strong chance that we're going to see some intergenerational exchange. So it's not necessarily baby boomer to baby boomer or empty nester to empty nester. There's probably a strong chance that some of those folks that have the space to share may actually end up getting a roommate that could be a younger age or from a younger generation.
So let me use a phrase that's been used a lot in the last week. What is the vetting process of folks that are, because we have two total strangers,
right?
And so how do you find out if one they're just safe to be with? Let's say that.
Sure, that is a great question.
It's what I do.
I think what we've done is tried to build in, make this experience as safe as possible. And so first and foremost, we pre-screen and pre-qualify everyone using a pretty rigid background screening process. And then secondly, we ask both parties to tell us what they're looking for in a roommate. And our system, the algorithm that we have in the technology, actually does all of the heavy lifting and the matching based on the preferences that folks tell us they're looking for in terms of sharing their space. And we're building in some pretty interesting new stuff with some ID verification that's going to take that verification and that safety check to yet another level beyond what we already do today, because we know that's the most important thing. Right?
Yeah, and even like you do criminal background checks, and you do kind of deeper, the whole deal, so you know what's coming into your home.
Do you have an algorithm to match AM radio hosts?
Absolutely.
Are you trying to tell me something?
I don't know. After that last segment about apologies, I think I'm done with this thing.
So when I met Wendi, she told me the overarching idea, and I just started peppering her with questions because that was the big one. The other part that's real interesting is you kind of help the money flow between the tenant and the renter. So you never get in a situation where if that person isn't paying, you're in that uncomfortable position of saying, hey, you owe me rent. So how does that work?
You bet. So we actually don't do the collection. We stay out of it, but what we do is enable a series of tools that actually allows the renter and the homeowner to have an automatic payment exchange, direct deposit between their bank accounts. So one of the things that we studied when we were looking at what folks, when they're considering doing this, one of the things that can be awkward for people if they don't know each other well is to go and chase somebody down for the monthly check.
Right,
and so we felt that this would be another feature that would actually make the service pretty attractive, and our focus groups actually told us the same thing. I don't want to go chase somebody down. I don't want to ask them for the money. That gets a little awkward. So this is just designed to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, especially when they're down the hall. And then you have leases from all 50 states that are approved. So if there is issues, there's trigger mechanisms to have folks moved in or moved out and that thing.
Absolutely. And the leases, today we've designed them with the assumption that some people may decide, hey, you know what, we're not going to exchange money. Maybe you move in and you clean the kitchen and I'll trade off doing the lawn. We still, in that case, encourage people to put a lease in place because the lease is your strongest protection mechanism in the event that something doesn't work out. You're able to terminate that relationship.
And then how does the money piece work? What would, if, say, I have a mom that's living here and would like to bring some support into the home, what does all this cost to set up?
Sure. So we charge a one-time flat fee, and it's based on the package that the homeowner wants to subscribe to. So you either pay $99, $199, or $349, and it just depends on which service package you want. In any of those cases, it gives you an unlimited amount of matches for within a designated time period. So, for example, at the $99 rate, we will pass you an unlimited amount of qualified matches that you get to review and decision on, and you don't actually pay us until we find the first match for you. So you can come in and publish your listing and put your available space out there, and you don't have to make that first payment until we found the first person that meets your criteria.
And one of the other things we talked about when I was out in Boulder visiting you is that this aging demographic that's moving through. The numbers are staggering, and the costs and the need.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty overwhelming, you know, and you'll hear people refer to it as the silver tsunami. And there's good reason for that. If you look at the numbers today, we have 109 million people in the United States that are over 50, and that number goes to almost 140 million in the next 15 years. And you can imagine the impact that has on the economy as well as, you know, particularly in the health and wellness sector. But housing is definitely in the top three categories that have significant impact. Right. We're seeing 10,000 people a day right now turn 65.
Right.
Pretty significant.
And, you know, battles the loneliness issues. It makes sure you have some security in the home. It makes sure you have some support for both parties in the home. It's a great idea, Wendi. I thought when I saw it that this is $1 million idea.
So are 100% of your matches someone who owns a house or apartment or a condo and then they move in? Are there ever an instance where you have two people who are looking for something and then maybe they move into some place together that neither of them own? Do you do that kind of stuff?
Not in this particular situation yet. Okay. I think in the future that's a strong possibility. But for right now, it's currently oriented around one person actually having the space available.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Now, Wendi, I was kind of impressed by the whole vibe in the Boulder, Denver area around startups and kind of the energy. And you've kind of plugged into some very strong women organizations that are helping each other and bringing in capital. And this is a business that is a startup, and it's got the potential to be that exponential growth kind of thing. And what's that look like in your market? Because we really don't have it out here.
Well, you know, we are very fortunate to be here in the Denver Boulder area, which, you know, you're exactly right. It is a huge entrepreneurial center, and there is an enormous amount of activity. You know, I think we also, right now, one of the exciting things for us to be in Denver is we actually have the largest baby boomer population per capita, growing at kind of the fastest rate. So that certainly helps us being here. But I think energetically, you're absolutely right. Yeah. You know, Boulder and Denver is a fantastic place to be because of the support mechanisms that are here that really support an entrepreneurial infrastructure.
Yeah, you got one neighbor who's a pharmaceutical startup, biotech. Another one's in the ski and design world. I mean, just the whole.
I'm in the ski and design.
The energy up there is really feeds upon itself, and I think that opens your doors for people of influence and financial investments and all that kind of good stuff. So it's really cool to see.
Absolutely. It's a fun place to be. We'll
now,
are you back here pretty soon?
Are you in every market? Are you in certain markets? Can folks in Tucson actually and Green Valley and some of these elderly communities plug in right away?
You know, we are actually in every market right now. We're only a month old. We have launched our marketing efforts in the Denver metro area. But ironically, this week alone, we had one of our first successful transactions, and it was in Bend, Oregon. So it's clearly working everywhere right now. And if there are folks, you know, in Tucson that are interested, they could absolutely plug in today.
What's the website?
Silvernest.com.
All right, Silvernest.com. Folks, you don't pay until there's actually a match. So it's if you want to start the process, there's no fees until they connect the dots.
Hey, Wendi, it's a great idea. Congratulations, and keep going.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, good luck with everything. Talk to you later.
Check it out, Silvernest.
And split the rent. Now, like the Golden Girls, a growing number of older Americans are choosing to move in together. They are known as boomer roomies. Venita Nair looks at how it's changed two women's lives.
Have you done that already?
I did.
67-year-old Dina Wilcox and 68-year-old Ann Fry are not just roommates, they're best friends. But there is one title neither of them can stand.
I'm sure by now you've heard this term boomer roomies.
I don't particularly like that term too much. Boomer roomies. Do you like that term?
No, I hate the term.
Yeah.
The pair, who often finish each other's sentences, have lived together in this 1,200-square-foot apartment in Harlem for the past 2 years. Dina on one side.
I have an office area, and then I have a bedroom area.
And Ann on the other. But just a few years ago, they barely knew each other. Dina was living alone after her husband's death, having downsized from a big house in the suburbs to a 2-bedroom apartment in New York. She met Ann at a learning seminar. She was divorced and new to New York. Then Dina heard Ann talking about her battle with breast cancer and how she could no longer afford her rent because of her medical bills. On a whim, she asked Ann to move in.
And the next thing I knew, I was running down the block after her, calling her.
And I started to cry, and I said, this isn't going to work. I'd have to sell everything I have and move into this one little bedroom with only one closet. And within a day or two, I think I came back and I said I'd be foolish not to move in here.
Dina and Ann are part of a growing number of older Americans sharing apartments and houses. Linda Hoffman, president of the New York Foundation for Senior Citizens, says applications for senior roommates in New York have tripled over the past 6 years. She says sharing finances is not the only motivation for seniors.
I think it can be very lonely and it can cause depression if one is unable to get out as often as possible. There are individuals who have no family, and this is sort of a situation where built-in friendships can occur.
These ladies not only share rent and household chores, they also share a message. They started a blog called SeniorFlatmates.com with the hope that other seniors can benefit from what they've learned.
I think we feel probably closer to each other than we do to a lot of other people in our lives.
It adds a richness that I cannot even describe. Someone will be here to talk to and to share stuff with and to go out for a glass of wine with.
The current lease is 1 year.
Yes.
Is this a lifelong situation?
The plan that we're making now for when the lease ends is that we're going to look for another apartment together if we don't stay here. So it's just we make it up as we go along.
It is open-ended.
It's just life.
But life is open-ended.
Right.
So your meeting went well?
Both ladies say they would love to meet a man and get married once again. But until that happens, they have each other. For CBS This Morning, Venita Nair, Harlem.
Friendship is so important.
Oh man, it is. I love that story.
Yeah. You two maybe thinking about being boomer roomies?
If I could have my own TV and bathroom.
Yeah.